Everybody, and welcome back to Sew Along with Jan and the Kimberbell Mini Quilts, and this is the May one. So you can see this one's real cute. It doesn't have too many blocks in it, but I noticed as I was looking through them that the vase block and the butterfly block are fairly intense. So we're going to do those in this block in one video, this block in one video, and then the first video is going to be these two blocks here, which are just lettering. It's sentiment blocks. And then I'm going to show you how to quilt these little filler blocks over here. So we'll talk first about the fabrics and cutting, and then a little bit about the threads and stabilizers and so on. And then we'll just do this little section here first. And then the next video will be on the vase block. And then the third video will be on the butterfly block. They're not hard, they just have a lot of steps. So I thought it would be easier and make the videos a little shorter if I just split up the blocks a little bit more. So, okay, so we're going to start with these, but let's first talk about our cutting and our threads. Now I have my list of threads here. I don't know if you can see it very well. I'll put them in the description. But I had to go fabric-wise a little bit. There was kind of like magentas and peaches in this one, and I had to go a little bit more pink and purple. So my colors will be different than yours. So I just take my fabric and match my fabrics to what I need for thread. So there's 001 white. There's Pollen yellow. So my yellow is a little bit brighter. Also, some of my colors are a little bit darker, a little bit brighter. Pollen yellow, which is, I think it's 0332. I use orange peel for the orange. So it is a little bit darker as well. 0112. These are brother colors, so you know. I have a deep rose and a light flush pink. So here's my flush pink, which is 124. The deep rose is on the machine and it's 086. So it's a little bit brighter because I had to go to a little bit brighter pink here. So, and then my purples I'm a little bit more purple. So I've got light lilac for the lightest one, which is 812, I'm sorry. The purple is lilac and it's 612. And then I did purple. I had to do a real dark purple for mine instead of the kind of magenta color. So it is this is the old purple. So this is 614. And then I did a light, a medium, and a dark green. And so I did kind of mossy greens. So I did fresh green for the medium. And that is 027. I did moss green for the darker one. That's 515. And then I used mint green for the light. So I have 0178. So I have 3 greens here. And then I had to throw in a little kind of a turquoisey color because I ended up with more of a turquoise than a blue. This is mint julep, which is $12.93, that I'm going to quilt my butterfly background with. So I had to throw a little bit more of a turquoisey color in there too. So that's what I always tell people is everybody's always worried about the colors and the threads. But just take your fabrics and look at the color chart here and then lay the fabrics out and pick the threads that go with your fabrics. And then I just put them onto these little symbols so that I know which one I'm going to use for that particular one. Okay, and then the other thing you'll need, and you don't have to do this, but I'm going to do it because I have some water-soluble thread. And this is Vanish. I have Vanish. The other one that's really good is Madeira, and I don't happen to have any of that right now, but I have the Vanish. And you just need a bobbin with some water-soluble thread in it. And I'm going to use that today. So, okay, got that. So that's our threads. And then let's talk about the cutting real quick here. I think most of you have cut a few of these, so it's not that hard. I did make a couple of changes, just so you know. So what I do when I cut, I don't know if a lot of you cut this way. This is the way I do it. I just pick my fabrics over here. You know, I got my list of fabrics here. And I lay them in order, and then I just cut this one first, and I say 4.5 by 4.5, and then I get the next one, and I cut out what it tells me to do. And then I lay them in piles of the block that it is. So like the first one, you know, is the butterfly. So I had to go a little more purple. So here's my pack for the butterfly here. And mine's a little bit more on the purple side, dark, instead of the magenta. I just didn't have those purples. I had purple instead. So I used those. And then I have all of my little pieces here that go with that block. Okay. And then, you know, I go down to the next one. I cut out these. So the one thing I wanted to tell you that I did, they have these little filler blocks, and we're going to do that in this video yet. The filler blocks, they tell you to cut them 2.5 by 2.5 if you're doing this traditionally, and 3 by 3 if you're going to do this with the Quilt As You Go. And the last one that I did that had this like this, I don't like this new Quilt As You Go, because then you got to try to get the fabric on there straight, and then you got to trim it down. Well, they used to do technique 2 in the quilting, and I actually prefer that. And so I just cut mine at 2.5 by 2.5, all those little filler blocks, because there's like 4 of them here. You can see the ones with the blue here. I just cut them at 2.5 by 2.5. I did not put shape flex on the back. So I think what was happening is that people were putting shape flex, you know, the SF101 on the back, and then that actually will shrink slightly. So I don't usually put it on the back of these types of blocks that are just going to be like filler blocks and quilted. So I like method number 2 in the quilting instructions. So we're going to do that today. So I'm going to show that. So these are 2.5-inch blocks, not 3-inch blocks. That's the one thing I did differently. So you need to go down your little list and cut your design, all your stuff out. I used, my binding is a little bit more on the turquoise side because I couldn't find a green that I like, so mine's a little more on the turquoise side. And then my binding is always 2 1/4 instead of 2 1/2. So you do whichever works for you. I like 2 1/4 inch binding. And then the background piece is 14 by 14. And I put shape flex on the back because that really helps with when you go to put it together at the end, that it doesn't pucker on the back, and it gives it makes it nice and flat. So I did put shape flex on the back of my backing piece, which was 14 by 14. And remember, we're going to put a little sleeve on the back of ours. So here's the little sleeve, and it's 6 by 12. So I have that cut here as well. Okay. And I'll need a piece of Heat and Bond light, or Heat and Bond Ultra, excuse me, Ultra Hold. And I don't happen to have that with me right at the moment, so I'll show you that when we go to the assembly video. So that's my cutting, and it shows you over here if you need some help with getting them organized, if you had a kit or something to get it organized to cut it out. I have scraps. I mean, I'm cutting all of these. Oh, sorry, bonked the camera. I'm cutting all of these out of scraps that I have in my scrap bins. So you really need very little fabric for these. And so I'm finding that they work really well for the scraps, and I'm just finding fabric that works close. You know, I kind of look at my pictures over here, and like I said, you know, I didn't have these magentas that were purple, so I had more purples. So I used purples here. And then these, instead of the peachy pink, mine are more pink, because I didn't have the peachy pinks. I did have yellows and oranges, and then these kind of blue turquoises at the bottom. So I kind of used, some of the fabrics are Kimberbell, some of them are not, but I just kind of go by the color. And then in these cases, these 2 cases up here, I had to go kind of pink and purple instead of magenta and peach. So mine are going to be a little bit brighter, so that's fine. It'll still look really cute. So, okay. Then you need your little embellishment kit. And if you haven't done any of these yet, I'm finding that the embellishment kits are really helpful with these, because there's a lot of little pieces in most of them. This one also has pom-poms. So here's a whole bunch of little pom-poms. And I think we need the little ribbon on here. This one had iridescent mylar and some vinyl in it. And then this little piece of grosgrain ribbon, and then we need these little pom-poms for our design. So I kind of like the embellishment kits, because then I don't have to run and try to find all of these little pieces. So I would recommend them if you are getting started on these. Okay, and then we need some Kimberbell paper tape, your bobbin thread, your water soluble thread, to put in your bobbin. So I've got my bobbin wound of that. And let's see, let's turn over and see if there's anything else we need. Nope. So I think we needed, let's see, we need some shape flex on the backs of some of our fabrics. And the other thing I do when I'm getting ready to go, before I stop cutting, I always like to go through each of the instructions and look to see if I need shape flex on the back, the SF101 on the back of any of these. So normally it's on the back of the background fabric. So the first two blocks that we're going to do today requested that on the back. So I've got SF101 or shape flex on the back of those two. And let's see. Oh, and then the instructions for the different techniques of the quilting are actually in the quilting instructions. So if you need to print those off, go ahead. I've done it so many times now I don't print them off anymore. They do tell you to use shape flex on the back of the blocks. And I think that's why people were having trouble with the second technique, because when you put the shape flex on, the shape flex has a tendency to shrink just a little. So I normally don't use shape flex on the back of my borders or my little filler blocks. I don't know why, I never have, and I've never had any trouble. So I'm going to show you how I do these. And I kind of like it better because then I don't have to try to get it lined up and cut down, because you can't see the like line. You know, if you cut this bigger, you can't see the line that you're attaching it to. And I had a little trouble getting them square when the last time I did one of these, because it told you to cut them bigger. So I did. So we're going to do this at the end of this video. Okay. So we're going to start out with the sentiment blocks. And these are going to be just simple blocks. We're going to quilt them and then in the hoop, and then we're going to do just the lettering. So these are just going to be cute little sentiment blocks. So let's get started here. I have the first one is going to be done in this kind of screechy pink, but I think it'll be pretty. So it says to quilt it in the same color. So I'm going to match my screechy pink here. And I've got, that's that rose. It's 086 deep rose. So it's kind of a dark rose pink. And we're going to do that first. So the first little block is going to end up being 4x4 finish. Let's go over here. And we're going to go get our quilting design. Now the quilting design for this one, they talk about, oh, it's the loops. So I got to go to my stick here. Whoops. Maybe I don't have my stick in. Let's go put it in here. Sorry, I had my machine serviced and I didn't put my USB stick back in. I always have to stand up to put it in though. There we go. I took it out and put it up in my little cup at the top here. So, okay. Now let's try it. All right, so this one's going to be mini quilts, and we're going to go get the background quilting first, of course, because we're going to start with that. And this is loops 3, and here's the embroidery files, PES, and then this is the 4x4. So we're going to do 4x4 horizontal. That's what this one calls for. Okay, and I have a 5x7 hoop in my machine, because this one is going to be 4.5 by 4.5, as you can see at the top. All right, so we're going to go ahead and add now, and then we're going to bring in the welcome for May. So it's the welcome block. Mini Quilts Volume 1. Let's see. Gotta find the right one. Here's May. Gosh, we're on May already. Can you believe it? Well, let's see here. Gotta find the right one. Must be down here. Oh, here it is. Welcome. Okay. And it says in the instructions, align the block embroidery file with the quilting design so that they both are centered, which they do come in automatically centered. You probably can't see the letters too much because they're in kind of a light gray or white. So we're going to set that, and then we're going to hit embroidery. So I think we're ready to go. So we're going to start, of course, with our quilting, as we always do. You will need some batting, and I don't cut my batting. So in the instructions for the quilting, if you like to cut your little squares of batting up, you're more than welcome to do that. I like to use my little chunks. So I just have a chunk of batting here. I'm just going to hold it up. I figure I have to trim it anyway. I don't want to cut it twice. So we're just going to use the chunks. The first step in all of our quilting designs, as usual, is the placement line for the batting. So we're going to start out. Now I have my pink thread in here. And of course it's going to unthread itself right at the beginning of the video just for you guys. So we'll just try this again. Oops, second here. So it's caught here. Must have, oop, there we go. Something's caught around the needle. There we go. All right, we'll try that again. I have regular, I have a pre-wound bobbin in my machine. I use pre-wound bobbins and just bobbin thread in the bobbin. And I'm going to back up so we can go back to the beginning here. There we go. So here's our placement line. I have a number 11 needle in the machine. I use number 7511s most of the time when I'm embroidering. And I have a piece of just no-show mesh in the hoop. All right, so here's our little placement line. And then we're going to lay our batting down. So that's always step number 2. You know, lay your batting down and then you're going to tack that down. We've done these before, so I think everybody's getting really good at this. I don't get the instructions out anymore. I used to have to get the instructions out. And they do some different things. You know, they kind of mix things up a little bit here and there, but most of the time everything's done in the same order. I like it that they have the things, all of the quilting designs kind of in the same order. Makes it more consistent and easier for us. All right, just going to go around it twice. All right, now we're going to trim close to the stitches. This is going to be cute. I like these little sentiment blocks. They haven't been doing, they haven't done as many, that just like one block that has just words in it. I always like sentiment blocks. All right, so we'll trim this close to the stitches. I'm using my Ginger scissors. I love these double curved. These are 6-inch double curved Gingers, and they really are sharp on the tips, which are great for small applique pieces. Okay, the third step is always going to be the placement line then for the fabric. So I'm getting my fabric ready here for the welcome. So, and it's, I don't know exactly what color to tell you this is. It's pink, but it's got just a little bit more of a rose tone to it. So I don't know how mine's going to look because I have a very bright orange as well. So these two, though, actually look kind of cool together. So that's going to be my 2 sentiment blocks. So we'll see how it turns out here. Okay, we're going to lay this down and get it as centered as possible. We will be trimming this down. Get it centered. I think it feels pretty good. Okay, and then step number 4 is always going to be our tack down line for the fabric. The April mini quilt, which turned out beautifully with all those little darling reverse applique blocks. Those were a little more intense, but this one has some intense applique. And we're going to do some fringe, and I love fringe. So, okay, and then step number 5, as usual, is going to be the quilting. So it's going to do the little loops, and then we'll move on to our words. So I'll probably just turn the camera off while this does its little quilting, but there's our cute little loops here. And then we'll go on to the letters. Okay, so there's our quilting. I actually really like that. I am using, I wanted to tell you what kind of batting I'm using too. I'm using scraps of my Hobbs 80/20 batting, and I really like it better than some of the flatter battings because you can really see the quilting. It gives it more, there's a little bit more loft to it, and so it really makes the quilting show. I really like that. So I've always used my scraps from my quilt, my long arm. So, and it's Hobbs 80/20, and you can buy it in packages or whatever, but I've just got all these scraps, so I use those up. All right, so now we're going to move on to our design, which is You are welcome as the day is, see, you are as welcome as the. And I'm going to switch over and I'm going to do these in white threads. Let me find my white thread, where to go. So we'll do the white for the lettering. And we're almost done. We're just going to do all the letters and then we'll move on to the second block. So these are going to go along a little bit faster. The other two blocks do have quite a lot of applique. So that's why I thought we'd do those two blocks, one in each video, because there's just a lot of applique in them. They're not hard, they just have a lot of applique. All right, so here's our letters. And I will be back in a moment when the lettering is done. Okay, so there's the lettering. You are as welcome as the, and then the flowers in May is going to be in the second block. So this block is actually complete. There is a second step to it, but they tell you not to sew that out. So that's just for, it's right here. It says do not sew this step because that's just like for placement. So we're done with this one. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll take this one out of the hoop and we're going to get ready to do the second one, which is going to be the May one. They call it May, and flowers in May. And that one's going to be with that orange. So give me a moment here and I'll re-hoop and we'll do all of the trimming at the end. We'll do our little filler blocks also, and then we'll do all the trimming at the end. So there's the first block. Isn't that cute? I really like that. I like the color. It's going to be brighter than the original one. I know mine's going to be brighter. So, all right. Well, I'll be right back when I get the my no-show mesh back in my 5x7 hoop again, and be ready for the second block. Okay, so I've got my no-show mesh back in my 5x7 hoop for the second one. It's going to be the same size, but this one's going to use a different quilting design. So, we're going to use the little bubbles, pebbles they call this one. All right, so let's go ahead and get this one set up. So we're going to go back to the stick and get our design, our embroidery, or excuse me, my quilting design first. So we'll get that first. And let's see. Oh, here's the quilting. And this one is Pebble 2. Pebble 2, where is it? Here it is. And this one's going to be the 4x4 vertical. So let's try finding that one. 4x4 vertical. It must be this one right here. Okay, and we're going to set that one, and then we're going to, this one also says that they should be centered. So then we're going to go back and add our flowers in May block. So let's go find that one. Mini quilts. May. I think the other half of the year is supposed to come out in May. So hopefully it does, because we're going to be behind otherwise, aren't we? So we want to keep going. So here's flowers in May. And it came in centered. You can't see the letters very well because they're white in the picture, but they came in nicely centered. And I'm going to go ahead and quilt this one because my fabric is this orange. So we're going to quilt it in the orange. So I've got that in the machine. That is it's that Orange Peel is the name of it in the Brother. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. So we'll hit embroidery here. And we're going to start out the same way, of course, that we did with the last one. Same steps. First step, we'll move our book here. First step is going to be the placement line for the batting. So I get my chunk of batting up here. I have kind of a big chunk this time. But I don't like to cut very well, and so when I started doing the Kimberbell quilting designs when they first came out, I always cut everything, and I thought, well, why am I cutting this? Because you still had to trim it. It was still cut oversized, and I thought, well, it's so much easier just to do the little chunks. So, and sometimes I have small chunks, and this right now I have pretty good sized chunks. So I'm just holding them up. They work just fine. All right. These have been really fun. I hope you're enjoying these series of videos. I've been enjoying making them. And they've turned out so cute. It's nice to have something for my little frame in my living room every month. I've got the Easter April one up right now. But this one looks like it's going to be really pretty when it's done. I wasn't sure about my fabrics. They're a little brighter than in the pictures, but I thought, well, this is what I've got, so we're going to try it out. And I think I'm going to like it. We're going to see what happens when we get to the end here. Sometimes you just don't know what it's really going to look like until you're at the end. So get them all sewn together next to each other. Kimberbell uses a lot of different fabrics in their projects, and so we're going to trim this close to the stitches after we tacked it down. Step 2 was the tack down, of course, and then trim it close to the stitches. Step number 3 is going to be our placement line for our fabric, so we'll stitch that. And the reason, you'll see the reason why I always stitch this. A lot of people will say, oh, I can just skip this step. Well, you can, but there's times when you need it. And when we do the 4 little blocks that we're going to do here pretty soon, you'll understand why you need it. So that's why I don't skip it, because then I forget. And then I don't stitch something I really need. So, all right. So we're going to put our 6.5 by 6.5 inch piece over that. See if we can get it pretty centered. It feels pretty good. And then step number 4 is going to be the tack down for the fabric. And then we're going to do the quilting. And it'll be those cute little pebble, like big circles. I kind of like that. Okay, and then we're going to do step number 5 is always the quilting. So here's going to be the quilting. Get that started, and I'll come back when it's done, and then we'll move on to the letters for the second little sentiment block. Okay, so there's our quilting. I just really like, isn't it neat how you get the loft and you really see the quilting? I really like that. Okay, so now let's move on and do the letters. So the first step of the actual block is the lettering. So I'm going to put my white back in, and we'll do flowers in May for this block. And then we'll move on to those little quilted filler blocks, and I'll show you how I like to do those. Okay. All right, so we'll do the letters, and I'll be back in a moment, and we'll start working, we'll get ready to start working on our filler blocks. Okay, so there's our letters in the white, and they, oh, this has the same deal, that the second step in here says do not stitch. It was just for placement. So we're done. That's it. How easy was that? So we got our quilting done. Let me take it out so you can see a little bit better here. Got the quilting done and the letters on. So there's our second block. Wow, that looks great. So then we're going to trim them here in a minute, but let's go on and do the quilting on our little filler blocks. So there's 4 little filler blocks, and I thought maybe we could do a couple at a time so that we wouldn't have to, so we could just hoop. I'm going to use my 5x7 hoop, and we'll just do a couple of these at a time. So I'll show you we'll just put them together, and we can color sort them, because that's the other thing that Kimberbell does, is they kind of use the same colors for each of the steps of the design. So I find that very useful when I'm doing quilting, because if I want to quilt several things at once. So the quilting information, this is pages 6 and 7 of the May instructions, but the quilting information about the little blocks is at the back in the finishing section. So it's actually on page 14. So we're going to do this here, so that we're going to do these 4 little blocks right here and just do the quilting. Okay, but I'm going to do them a little differently than they say in the instructions. So I need to go get some stabilizer back in my hoop, but we're going to do the first 2. So there's a little yellow one and then this little stripy one. We'll do those 2 together, and then we'll do 3 and 4 together in one hooping. So let me go get some more stabilizer, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I kind of changed my mind the way I'm going to do these. I'm going to do number 2 and number 4 together, because I'm going to quilt both of those in white. So I wanted to show you a couple different ways that you can do, like if you have to quilt a bunch of these little blocks. Okay, so in this case, I know I'm going to quilt them in white, both of those, and then we'll do the other two together, but then we'll do them just a slightly different way. So I can show you a couple different ways, okay? So since these can all be done in the same color, we can do a combination and do a color sort so that we can do both of them at the same time. But the other two need to be quilted in a different color. So we'll probably want to leave them separate. So we will do those a little bit differently. So let's do 2, which is going to be the little striped one, and 4. In my case, it's going to be the one with the little flowers. So I'm going to quilt those both in white. Okay, so let's get this together. So those 2, one of them is Pebbles 2, and one of them is Loops 3. So we're going to bring up 2 different ones, and they're going to be 2 by 2 ones. They're little blocks. So let's go get the Quilting Mini Quilts and my Quilting, and the first one is Pebble 2. So Pebble 2, let's see here. There's Pebble 2, and we need the 2 by 2 design. Let's see, Pebble 2, 2 by 2. Oh, here it is right here, 2 by 2. All right, so we're going to do that one first, and I'm going to set that, and then I'm going to add the second one, and that one is Loops. That one they did Loops 3, so we'll go back and get Loops 3. Mini quilt. So there's a lot of different ways to do the quilting. So especially if you're doing a bunch of little small things, you can kind of combine them into a hooping. So this is one way to do it, and then we'll do the other one a little differently. All right, let's see. So here's Loops 3, and here's the 2 by 2. So we still need 2 by 2. Yeah, all of these will be 2 by 2. All right, so obviously we don't want them to be on top of each other, so we will move them so that they will kind of be in the center of our hoop here. And we want to leave just a little space in between so that there's enough room for the fabric to be in there. So we'll just leave a little space in the middle like that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let's go ahead and select these. I'm going to select them, so I can hit this little select all, and I want to center them in my hoop, so I'm going to hit the little polka dot button here so that they center in the hoop, so I know they're not going to be like, it's not going to make it be too big for my hoop. All right, because I've got a 5 by 7 hoop. So all right, so then on this screen, right before we go to, we're ready to do embroidery. I can't remember where it's on this one. Yeah, it's on the embroidery screen. So we're going to go ahead and get these on here, and then I'm going to hit embroidery. And I want this all to go together so I don't have to stop and do do the top one first and then do the second one first, because these are all going to be the same color. So normally what I do when I'm quilting stuff like this and I need to do maybe 3 or 4, I might be able to do them all together if they're the same color that I'm going to quilt them with at the end, so I don't have to sit there and like pay attention really close that I get things stopped. So I like to combine these because they make the colors the same for each step, which makes it easier to do this. So I'm going to hit layout on my Luminaire, and this little button right here is the color sort button. So if I hit this button right here, and not every machine has it, but most of the machines have color sort now, which I really love. So now, as you can see, it's going to do the 2 placement lines for the batting, and then the 2 tack down lines for the batting, and then the 2 placement lines for the fabric, and then the 2 tack down lines for the fabric, and then the quilting. Now in my case, it would be, and it's all going to be in white. So it will stop in between if you want to do that. And we may do the other one kind of the same way. We'll see. So let's see, because I'm going to have to switch colors for the quilting at the end, but we might do this similarly for the last 2. So we'll do these first. Okay, so these are all white. What I normally do is I kind of combine them, and I do like all the white ones together, and I'll do like, if I'm going to do them in like purple, I'll do in the purple ones together, that kind of thing, so I don't have to worry about what color thread I have in the machine. So then they're all the same. All right, so we got them combined so that it'll do everything together, so I can just like I can put one piece of batting on to do both sides, and I can do all the quilting and everything together. So all right, so I like to do these this way. Now this is also going to be done a little differently because I am doing technique 2 on the sheets. And they've kind of changed this because they took it off of a lot of the quilting designs, and I actually prefer this because I find it easier, and then I don't have to trim the blocks down at the end. So we're going to start out, just as we always do, with the placement line for the batting. But in this case, it's going to do both of our placement lines, and then I can put one piece of batting over both of the squares, and then we'll trim them both at the same time. So it's just going to take a little less time then. But I always have liked to do it this way, and I like the second part of this step better too, because it's easier for me to get them placed correctly. But they've kind of stopped doing it, and I don't know why. I suppose people were having trouble with things not being the right size, but I've never had that problem. So we're just going to do it this way. Okay, so then we're going to put this over our placement lines. Second here. Okay, now we can put them over both of them, see? And then it's just going to do the tack down line is the second step for the batting. So it's going to do both of them now. I do have my white thread because I want to do these in white. Because I'm thinking through the next ones, and see, if you color sort, it's going to color sort by the colors that are in the machine, and it's not going to stop before the quilting at the end. So I'm not going to do this combination or the color sort next time. We're going to do them individually, but we can still do them both in the same hoop. That way I don't have to sit here and worry if I get the machine turned off for my two colors, because I'm going to use yellow and purple, I think, for my quilting on the next one. All right, so then we're going to trim both of these. We'll do them separately next time, so instead of the color sort. I do this a lot when I'm doing borders, because then, you know, you can do 2 or 3 borders, sometimes 4, depends on the sizes of your hoops, all at the same time, and then you can, it's much faster. So I don't do the blocks too often this way, but I just wanted to show you another technique that you can do. All right, so we're going to trim close to the stitches. Okay, so this is the reason I always sew out step number 3, which is the placement line for the fabric. Okay, this is why I always sew it out, because when I stopped sewing it out, I forgot. I was skipping through it, and then when I needed to do this technique that we're just going to do now, I forgot to sew out the step. And I think, let's look at the book, I think the stripes are going up and down, so I'm going to try to put them up and down. That's what they said to do anyway. I like up and down stripes, so the stripes go this way. All right, so this is when this square becomes very important, okay? We need to put these 2.5-inch blocks because this line is 2.5 inches square, okay? This was how they did technique 2, and I really like this technique because it worked fine for me. So we're going to, second here, my glue stick is glued together. Okay, so I got my fabric glue stick, and I'm going to take fabric glue stick and I'm going to go across. You know what? I'm going to find my other one. That's the bigger one. I like my little pen one. This one's easier to get in between the batting and the fabric, and the batting and the line. This is my little sew line one. This one works better for this. So we're going to do right in that space, that 1/4 inch space, right around the edge of the batting. And then I'm going to take this piece of fabric, and it's going to fit right inside that line. And you take your time to get it in there. It's going to fit right inside the line because it's 2.5 inches square. Nice. I'm going to stick it down to the stabilizer. Just make sure that you've taken your time and gotten it straight. Okay, like that. And then we're going to do the other one. Let me pull this out so I can stick it up here a little further. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to take that little pen, my little glue pen, I'm going to go around in between the placement line and the batting. And I'm going to take my second little 2.5 inch square, line it up inside the line, get it all lined up. There we go, and it's all stuck down. Now, I have never really had any problems with these. I do not put the shape flex on. You notice I didn't have the shape flex on the back of any of my blocks. And the reason I don't do it is that seemed to be what caused my problem with the shrinkage. So I don't put it on these, and I don't put it on my borders when I'm doing borders on like pillows and quilts either. So I just use the fabric, and it's just fine. It's not going to pucker. Okay, so now I've still got my white thread in there. The machine is now going to do the tack down. So technically now this is supposed to be a tack down for this fabric. So you can stitch it out if you want to, but in this case we really don't need to because we know this is secured down with the glue. So I actually don't do this step. This is step number 4 because I don't want to disturb any of these edges. So we're just going to skip through this step on this one. So this is one I'm going to skip through. So I'm going to skip through it. I use the negative positive needle and skip down to the last step, which is going to be, oops, it's actually going to stop because I've got them color sorted. I need to go one more. There we go. So now it's going to be just do both of my quilting designs on my little blocks, and I put them in the order that they, yeah, so I've got them in the right order. And now it's going to do the quilting on these. And with the, because if you do the tack down lines, you might disturb the edges that you've glued down, so you don't want to do that. So the next step is going to be the quilting, and then we'll do the other two. So this one was the pebbles, and then the other one I think was the loops. Yeah, it was the loops. But this works really well, and then you don't have to trim them. I just cut them out of the stabilizer, and then I don't have to trim them down. And I've never really had any problems with them being the wrong size. They've always fit very well. But I use glue. I don't tape. I've always used the glue to glue them down. And I also do my borders this way. Oh, looks like my little loop didn't start. I might have to go back. Let's go back and start that one. My needle didn't catch over here, so let's go back and just do it again. Trim that off, and we'll go back and start that again. Okay. It evidently didn't tie off at the beginning. Sometimes when it gets in that glue, it'll just not want to tie. There we go. I think it'll be okay now. There we go. So it's going to do the loops. And then we'll move on to the other ones. And the other ones, the second two, I think we'll do them, I think we'll do them separately, because I don't want to have to sit here and be careful at the end. Because see, when you do that color sort, it doesn't stop between the two quilting designs. It does both of them at the same time. So there we go. They're all quilted. Isn't that cool? There we go. Those are done with the loops and the pebbles. So there's the first two. So let me go get my stabilizer ready for the second two, and then we'll set those up just a little differently, and we'll do those. Okay, so this is going to be the filler blocks, block number 1 and 3. So we're going to do these separately because I want them in different colors. So I'm going to do embroidery. So this is just another technique that you can do. And if you're doing multiple colors, you can just do each block at a time. So that's what we're going to do with this one. So the first one is going to be done in spring 4. So we're going to go get the quilting design. Spring 4, let's see. And this is also 2 by 2. Spring, here's Easter, spring 4, here we go. And the 2 by 2. which is, oh, it's going to have a little butterfly on it. That's cute. Spring 4 2x2. Yeah, that's cute. And then the other ones, then let's set that one. And then I'm just going to pull it up a little bit. And then this one here, we're going to add again. And then number 3 is going to be also spring 4. Oh, so this one's going to have the same one. So let's do it twice. So we'll go get that one again. Or let's do it this way. Let's try a different technique. Oh, I already hit add. We'll just go back and get it again. We could have duplicated it as well. I didn't realize that they were both the same. All right, so let's go get this one. Get spring 4 again. 2x2. So we could have just hit the duplicate button. I didn't realize they were both the same. All right, so hit set. We'll just pull this one down a little bit. Leave a little space in there so you have a little room for your fabrics to move around. Yeah, so spring 4 is on both of them. Okay, so now we're going to hit select down here again. And I'm going to select them both, and I'm going to center them again. Hit the little polka dot in the center so that they're centered. And then we'll go on to embroidery. Now this one I'm not going to color sort because they're going to be different colors this time. So we're going to do one at a time. So this is just another way of doing it, a couple in a hoop. Okay, so let's see. Let's do the yellow one first. So I'm going to put my Pollen in, which is 0332. So I'll put this kind of darker yellow in, and we'll do that one first. I'm going to move the camera over so I won't hit it. Grab the machine here. And so this time I did not hit the color sort. So I could do them separately in different colors. But I could have hit duplicate if I were to realize they were both the same. So, okay, so we're going to do these separately. So the first step is going to be our placement line for our batting. So we'll sew that out first. And then we'll lay our our batting down. And then step number 2 will be the tack down. Goes around it a couple times. And then we'll trim the batting down. Wait for it to finish here, Jan. I get in a hurry to start trimming. There we go. Sometimes it's better to keep your hands out of there while it's doing all of its gyrations. So, all right, so we'll trim this down. Okay. Oops. And then it will do, this is that important step, step number 3, because we need that line to help us get this little block in the hoop here. And I'm getting my little sew line glue pen ready to go. Boy, mine is really gooey. I have a really hard time with these. I don't know why. Does anybody else have trouble with these getting gooey on them? So we're going to take that little glue pen and go between the batting and the placement line. This placement line is a little easier to see, isn't it? Because it's a little darker colored. Okay, then we're going to take our yellow square, the 2.5 inch square. I'm going to put it right inside that line, right up to the line. That, push it down into the glue so that it's well adhered. Okay, and then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to skip step number 3 because we don't want to disturb that. So we're going to go down to the quilting, which is just going to be the butterfly. It'll be really cute. Okay, so then we're going to do that in the yellow. Oops, helps if I put my little, there we go. And then it's going to do the little butterfly quilting. Really cute. And you probably could have done this in maybe a contrasting color, but I don't know. It said to do it in the matching, so that's the way I did it. Okay. So there's the quilting for that one. So now we're going to move on to the next color because this one is going to be the purple. So I want this in purple. So let me grab my purple thread here. And this is 612 lilac. So it's not a real dark purple. It's like the medium one. I've got like 3 purples. Whoops, I think I missed. Missed number 6. There we go. Sometimes I get in such a hurry. I've threaded these machines a million times, I think. All right. So now we're going to do step number 1 for the purple. Get her ready for our batting here. And then we'll do the trimming. We'll trim the 2 big blocks, and then the little ones I'll show you what I do here in a minute. With these I usually just trim them out with a pair of scissors. You can use your rotary blade, your rotary cutter too. So I'm going to get our batting up here, do step number 2 and tack it down. I thought I'd break it up this way a little bit. I was going to do like some more blocks together, but the 2 applique blocks, they're not difficult. They just have a lot of steps. So I thought it'd be easier if we just concentrated on the 1 block for the other 2 videos. So we'll do the vase block in the next video, and then we'll do the butterfly block in the in the 3rd video. And then the last video we'll be putting it together. Sometimes it's easier if you kind of concentrate on one thing at a time. So, but these blocks were all kind of done the same. They're mostly just quilted, and then you know, the bigger ones had some words on them, but these are just quilted. All right, so then we got that trimmed, and then of course step number 3 is our important one for these blocks. We need that little line. So we know where to put our block in there. All right, so I got my little glue pen again. Okay, and then I'm going to put the glue down in between the batting and the outside line. That. And then I'm going to put my little block in, line up my placement line. There we go. Get it all glued down so it won't move, and we're going to skip step number 3, or step number 4, I should say, so that we don't disturb that. So I'm going to go down to the next one here. I've already got my negative positive needle up, and then we're going to do the little butterfly. And that'll be step number 5. All right, we'll get that one done. And then we'll do the butterfly. And then those little blocks are all done. I made it very easy to get them all quilted. You can see the purple one a little bit more because my fabric wasn't quite so busy. I didn't have a real, like, kind of a yellow. Well, I can see the butterfly though. When I hold it up here, I think you'll be able to see it. All right, so we're all done with the quilting. So then what we do with this, okay, what I usually do is I just take my scissors and trim around the block because I know they're 2.5 inches because I cut them that size. And we'll just take this and just trim up to the edge of the block. Just don't cut through your fabric. Just trim up to the edge of the block and trim your stabilizer off. And I'll do that with all 4 of them. And then those are ready to be put into the little mini quilt. So there you go. See? There's our little block with that. You can see the little butterfly in it. Yeah, I really like that. I love that Hobbs batting. It gives you some loft, and then you can see the quilting much better. All right, so I will do I'll trim each one of these out with the scissors. I don't need to do it on camera, and if you give me a moment, I will move the camera over, and we will trim the other 2 blocks with the orange pop rulers, and we'll be ready to go on to video number 2 pretty soon. Okay, so we're ready to trim our 2 bigger blocks. I went ahead and trimmed out my little blocks just out of the stabilizer with my scissors, so they're all 2.5 inches. So here's my 4 little filler blocks that we'll use at the end. So those are all ready to go. And now let's go ahead, and I've got my orange pop ruler out here. This is my 4.5. We're doing these 4.5 by 4.5. So let's go ahead and trim these 2 blocks. So you can kind of see where the tack down line is for the fabric, and that will help us get this centered. So I'm going to try to get that centered with those lines. That'll help me. And we're going to be trimming on the inside of this ruler. So I've got my Martelli rotary mat out here. This works really well. I still don't have my new one. I ordered it because I have a hole in mine. It was on back order, so I didn't get it. And I also need a new rotary cutter really badly, and it was on back order. So everything I ordered was on back order. So that last time I was telling you I was going to order one, and I did, but I haven't gotten it yet. Okay, so I'm going to slide this over this way. I am left-handed, just so you know. So I'm going to take my blade. I've got my 4.5-inch orange pop ruler here, and I'm going to start in a little ways, and I'm going to pull back to the corner and push forward. Then I'm going to turn, do the same thing. Start in just a little ways, pull back into the corner, and push forward. I think I might have moved just a little bit here. Let's see. There we go. Okay. Do the same thing on this side. And I think it slid on me a little bit. I'm having a little trouble with this mat. I need a new mat. So everything's wanting to slide on me. There we go. All right. So there is my first one. This is actually the second block. We did flowers in May. And then we'll get the other one here and do the same thing with that one. So this one's also the same size. So we'll do this one with the 4.5-inch ruler as well. Line up that little placement line. That'll help me, or that tack down line for the fabric. That helps you get it centered. Okay. And then we'll trim it down. Start in, pull back, and push forward. I learned that as I was working with this. And the other thing that's really important with these orange pop rulers is I've learned that I need to make sure my blade is very sharp. So if you have a blade that's not very sharp, make sure you sharpen it, put a new one in, because I've really struggled, because I have a tendency not to put, new blades in, and it works much better with a sharp blade. Okay. The other thing you can do if you have struggle with cutting on the inside of the ruler, just take just put the ruler down, take a water soluble marker or whatever, and just draw around it. And then you can use a regular rotary a regular rotary ruler in your blade instead, because if that's hard for you to do. I'm getting used to it. It does take a little getting used to, I have to say, cutting on the inside. So as I've gotten used to it, it really works very well. Okay. So here are our 2 little blocks. So these 2 are going to go together like that. Actually, the color is okay. They're very bright, but they're okay. And then these 4 little blocks are going to kind of go, I think this was the first one, and that's the second one. And then I think the third one was the purple, and the fourth one was the little flowers. So then those are going to be like that, and that'll be on the right-hand side of our quilt. And then we're getting ready to do, we'll do video number 2. So video number 2 will be the flower vase block. We'll just do that one block, because that one's got a lot of little stuff going on in that. So I thought it'd be easier just to do one thing at a time. So thank you so much for joining me for part 1 of the May Kimberbell Mini Quilt. And I'll see you in a little bit for part 2, and we'll do the next block. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do, because then it gives you notifications of when I have new videos and so on. And also, if you think of it, give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. So we'll see you in part 2 to do the vase block. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.